Being someone that sets aside time to travel abroad and sets aside money from each paycheck to travel abroad, I found it completely shocking when I found out that 64% of Americans never travel abroad. And being a military brat, I've spent half of my life living, if not traveling abroad. And as you can tell by the name of this blog, The Traveling Kimchi, traveling has become a really big part of my life. And I think you think I'm maybe overblowing it and stuff, but I've met people through my life that at first I was shocked they didn't travel abroad, but then I would find people that had never even traveled outside of the state. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I just want to throw some percentages at you. So in the UK, British, 75% of their population has passports. In Canada, 60% of their citizens own passports. And Americans, do you know what percentage of our citizens own passports? 30%. That being said, using my personal experience and some research online, today I'm discussing the top 4 reasons Americans don't travel abroad. Number 1, cultural and geographical diversity. We just don't put a big emphasis on learning about the world outside of the US and the cultures outside of the US. 2 examples that I can think of straight off the bat are language education. In the US public school system, you're not required to take a language until high school. Where in a lot of other countries, this education often starts in elementary and middle school and continues into high school and college. And this is why a lot of people you meet outside of the US are bilingual. Another thing that I can think of is that people often look at the US and we go, oh, we're just a giant mixing pot and we have a bunch of cultures here that we can experience and we're number 1. Why would we want to leave the country? A lot of the times these are watered down versions that are while they are good representations in a sense, they're watered down because they're also assimilating to the country that they're living in. Number 2 is skepticism and ignorance. So there's a lot of these, I guess, fears or stereotypes that we have when we look at, the countries beyond the US. Like, oh, it's really dangerous, I'm gonna get robbed, I'm gonna get a disease, there's not gonna be a hospital that can treat me with modern technology. These people are undereducated. These are completely overblown images and stereotypes that we have that are pushed by the media and that are pushed by movies and TV shows. Another great thing that I think exemplifies this a lot is if you were a big follower of The Daily Show when Jon Stewart was on it, he had Trevor Noah come on and they did this photo comparison where one photo was from South Africa and one was from the USA and you had to guess which one was which. But an example they did was he had a photo of this super highway with 6 lanes, super smooth paved, and the other one was this dinky alley or highway with a bunch of potholes in it. And it turns out the super highway that was really nice was from South Africa. So you just have to take these stereotypes and these images you're seeing in the media with a grain of salt because they're going to push the stuff that makes news and gets your ratings, not necessarily what is truthful and reflective of the country itself. Number 3, we are not a travel culture. The US kind of emphasizes making money over taking leisure time. And in a lot of countries, they're often encouraged to take a break in between life's milestones. So in Europe, I know it's super popular in between college and getting a job to take a year hiatus and go traveling. And I know it's also really popular in some Asian countries to go in between jobs. So kind of little milestones, getting out of high school, maybe traveling, going through college, finishing college, traveling, in between jobs, traveling, honeymoon travel, that's another big milestone in your life. We just don't really do that. We do honeymoons, but I haven't seen it as a really popular thing to go traveling when you graduate from college. We kind of, enforce the idea of, oh, you're out of college, get a job, pay back your loans. And we definitely don't choose to go traveling for that long in between jobs because you kind of go, oh my God, I got bills to pay, I gotta get another job. And I took a statistic from the ustravel.org and they said that the average age of a leisure travelers is 47.5 years old. Why wait so long to start your adventures and start traveling? Traveling is something you can do throughout your whole life. You work through your whole life, why can't you travel your whole life? Number 4 is cost and logistics. So of course, money is going to become an issue because traveling abroad can get pretty expensive. I'm going to read you a study from the Office of Travel and Tourism Industries. They said that 30.3 million Americans who traveled overseas for vacation in 2009 spent an average of $2,708 each. and this included airfare, lodging, and other expenditures. I always say this when I'm talking about traveling for people who think that they can't afford it or they can just never get there. Pick the country that fits your budget, not the budget that fits your country. And what I mean by this is, when I traveled to Thailand, I traveled from Korea, so of course my airfare was a little bit cheaper, but I did have a friend from the U.S. come from the U.S. and meet me in Thailand. He spent about $1,000, I want to say, on the airfare ticket, which at the time he was still in college, and he was like, Jess, like, I don't know if I can afford this. The ticket's already $1,000. And I told him, dude, you spend that money on that ticket, you're not going to be spending much else for the rest of the week. $1,000 to get there. We spent $12 a night at a hostel. We can choose between the meals we had. We could, of course, have spent $10 to $15 per night, but we also had the option of eating at mom and pop stores, which was $5 a meal. We did excursions, which ranged from whitewater rafting to snorkeling to boat riding. And I think there was like a mixed one where they would island hop and you got to canoe in and explore all the islands. Loved that one. And those costs are from $90 to $110 a day. And most of those included, no, I take that back. All of them included pickup from wherever you were staying, the transportation, if you're going boat to island or boat to this other snorkeling thing. It included the equipment, so snorkeling, canoeing, things like that. It included a meal and, of course, beverages and the transportation back to your hotel. So I think this is a great deal. Even him going from the U.S. to Thailand, I want to say he spent less than $2,000. Once again, pick the country that fits your budget, not the budget that fits your country. Now, I had a bunch of percentages at the beginning talking about our lack of passports, so of course at the end I just have to give you a couple more percentages talking about the benefits of traveling. So 91% of employers recognize the benefits of studying abroad. 73% of HR professionals agree that a constructive gap year is worthwhile. 66% of students who travel overseas achieve higher degrees. 75% of executives believe travel is important to prevent burnout. I can attest to this. An annual vacation can cut a person's risk of heart attack by 50%. And 83% of couples say their relationship is still romantic due to traveling. And my last one is having to do with that study of, can money buy you happiness? I'm sure a bunch of you guys have seen this study because it kind of blew up a couple of years ago. But basically it's talking about, can money buy you happiness? And scientists say, well, yeah, kind of. If you spend your money on the newest Nikes, the newest iPhone, the coolest clothes, basically these things will make you happy. Maybe for a week, maybe 2 weeks. But the happiness will fade. But if you take that money and spend it on experiences or bettering yourself, so spending money on a dance class or self-improvement classes, or also spending your money on skydiving or even traveling, these things will bring you happiness in the long run, which proves that traveling can make you happier in life and that it is worth spending money on it. But anyways, I hope this put some thoughts into your head about traveling abroad and not being that 64% that stays home. As always, I do encourage comments. Perhaps comment about some of your own sacrifices that you took to travel abroad. Money, time, jobs even. And even if you haven't gone abroad, perhaps comment on some fears you have about traveling abroad. I'd love to hear them. As always, remember to be respectful to one another and respectful of, our lifestyles and our choices and our own fears. Anyways, the point is, there's a big, big world out there to go see. And I hope you take the time and the money to go see it. This is the Traveling Kimchi. See you guys next time. Bye!